4 or 5 years ago, I think.
If it had been, the vote may have been different.
Oh, yeah, right.
Great.
I guess I need a motion to approve this policy.
I'll make a motion to approve the JBB admission to kindergarten and first grade policy.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mrs. Ericetti and seconded by Mr.
Webster.
Cro-Magnon man.
Webster. I've called you Mel for so
Neanderthal
long, I've
from
forgotten
earlier
your
in the
last name. Well, either that or it was a senior moment. I'm not sure which. Can't remember. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And all those opposed? Passed unanimous.
4-0. The next one?
Yeah.
Great.
We'll go on to policy reviews, revision, second reading, policy JGK, sports-related head injuries and concussions policy.
I'll take this one, Cliff. I'll read this one if you don't mind.
Sorry?
You mind if I read this one?
Go ahead. He loves reading.
I love reading.
Have you read?
This is policy JGK, sports-related head injury concussion policy. Sports-related head injuries and concussions can have serious consequences for students, including long-term health and educational issues if they are not properly managed. Early recognition of a concussion is essential to maximize safe management. The North Reading School District is committed to promote the safety and well-being of our students. As part of this commitment, we comply with the Massachusetts General Law and the Department of Public Health regulations regarding procedures pertaining to sports-related head injuries occurring in extracurricular athletic activities. All persons, as specified in Department of Public Health 105, if Jerry was here, he would know what CMR meant. CMR 201.008 shall be required to annually participate in a mandatory prevention and recognition of sports-related head injury training program approved by DPH. Participation requirements for athletes and parent guardians are as stated in DPH 105 CMR 201.009. The superintendent shall designate the athletic director as the person responsible for the implementation of these policies and protocols. Definitions: extracurricular athletic activities, an organized school-sponsored athletic activity generally occurring outside of school instructional hours under the direction of a coach, athletic director, or band leader. Athlete, a student who prepares for or participates in an extracurricular athletic activity. Copies of the proposed regulations, 105 CMR 201.000, are available in all nurses' offices within the district, as well as through the athletic director. These proposed regulations can also be downloaded directly from the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association website and then the website is listed. And the reading is complete.
And for information, CMR is Code of Massachusetts Regulations.
Okay.
Awesome. I learned something.
And I believe we discussed at the last meeting that while we should approve this is an interim policy, which we will be updating as soon as we get the state.
Correct. There's a requirement that we have a policy on sports-related head injury and concussion policy on or before January 1st. And in order to get 2 readings in and before the other draft regulations come out from MASC and others, we decided to move ahead with this policy as an interim policy to tide us over. We will then modify it as needed. I think the final date is sometime in March, that we have to have a final policy.
I think one of the concerns that both Karen and I had was that while it does mention band in the definitions, we see the Maskers Club and other things at the school, extracurricular activities, that could result in these types of injuries, and we'd like to make it more inclusive of those
That sounds like
activities.
a great idea, and I'm sure that will work its way into
In the
the
next one.
final
Great.
version.
Thanks.
I have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve the sports-related head injury and concussion policy JGK.
I'll second that.
motion made by Ms. Sarachetti, seconded by Mr. Webster. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Passed. Unanimous. Bills and payrolls, all signed. Minutes, we have minutes of
Got quite a few.
the
Yeah, we have an executive session.
executive session, November 7th.
Yeah, I read through these. I found them to be fine, so I'll make a motion to approve the November 7th, 2011 executive session minutes.
Mike, you
I'll
need to-
second.
Okay, the motion is made by Mr. Webster and
Well, actually, you know what? We
We can't.
can't vote on these because neither Cliff nor Karen was here. So we'll just have to
There's no
table these.
quorum,
Yeah,
you're right.
All right, well,
we'll table those minutes till the next meeting.
yeah, table those minutes.
Good point.
The open session minutes of November 7th.
Can we vote on these? Yes, we can.
Mhm.
I'll make them, I read through these, I found them to be fine. I'll make a motion to approve the November 7th, 2011 regular meetings minutes.
Motion by Mel, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstention.
And
301.
I was there, I'll vote yes, chair votes yes.
Okay. And then I read through the November 21st open meeting regular session. I didn't find anything. Mel, did you find
No.
anything?
Nope.
Excellent. So then I'll make a motion to approve the November 21st, 2011 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Karen, seconded by Mel to approve the regular meeting minutes of November 21st, 2011. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 With one abstention.
You, Mike.
One abstention.
3-1. And that's it for
That's the
Notes.
Yeah,
minutes.
this is minutes.
Budget update, Carl.
Yes, thank you. In front of you, you have the November budget update, and as is my practice, I'll point out the highlights. I'd begin by mentioning the fact that we're well within our bottom line budget allocation at this juncture. Comfortable that we're moving ahead comfortably. The points I'd like to share at this point would be, I'd begin with a comment on the payroll side. I'd noted before that we are experiencing higher than anticipated costs in our credit stipends that we pay out to teachers who have completed certain professional development obligations, and that's something we'll anticipate in the upcoming budgets for next year. We have a younger cohort of teachers who are more involved in accumulating PDPs, so that's kind of the context for this. Because at the same time, the younger teachers have lower salaries, so when you weigh the two expenses, they tend to even out. I would also note that as a result of some real challenges in our technology support area this year, we have had to divert some resources to personnel there. The committee knows, the public knows, that we have not increased our complement of technology personnel in perhaps 12 to 15 years. Yet the number of technology devices we have and the changing use of those devices is such that it really became particularly difficult to support them, even from a hardware and infrastructure fashion, as much as we really want to. So that diversion of resources has meant that in the technology support area, we suspect that, that's on the third page of the report, that our end-of-year balance will be about $15,000 less than we had budgeted. We intend, incidentally, in the weeks and months ahead, to try to present some what we'd like to think are some innovative ideas for how we can address this in future years. With level services, it's pretty difficult to maintain certain staffing levels, particularly in areas such as technology. Much more on that later. Having said all of this, we're still comfortable that we can find transfers from other areas. I've noted in the cover note that we're comfortable that within the telephone and some of the utility accounts, because of our energy savings, we're going to be able to make available funds to support the two activities that I've mentioned.
Okay.
Right.
Any comments, questions?
Looks good.
Yay.
Um,
Thank you, Carl.
If any staffing, no staffing?
No staffing report this evening?
No bids and donations? Subcommittee updates. We have subcommittee, evaluation subcommittee. You want to do that one, Karen?
Sure. The evaluation subcommittee met Wednesday, November 30th. To remind folks, this is a relatively new committee that is now in its second year of operation, and both Mr. Bowers and I sit on that committee. We are working on getting a date for Mike Gilbert to come and address the evaluation subcommittee regarding our pilot of the MASC evaluation self-assessment tool for school committees. Folks may remember we engaged in a discussion about the school committee using this new tool, which was rather cumbersome, but we made a template to help members evaluate the performance of our school committee. And we engaged in a really good conversation after that when we set our goals for the school committee. So we want to engage Mike Gilbert, who is part of the MASC, in a discussion about how to go from here. What's our next step? So we are in the process of scheduling that. And let's see, what else do we talk about, Cliff? I can't remember.
Mostly that.
Mostly
and
that.
about how we would modify that to.
Right. So we'll have the next step with respect to how we're going to actually do this the next time around. And both Cliff and I are pulling together information to share with Mr. Gilbert about our process. Other than that, I don't think there's really anything pertinent to share at this time.
No, it's fairly
Straightforward.
fairly straightforward at this point. We are waiting for input.
Yep.
Subcommittee schedule, athletic subcommittees meeting on December 13th at 12:30 in the afternoon. Policy subcommittees December 14th at 5, and the evaluation subcommittee on December 15th at 6:30. Administrative report?
Yes, just a few items to note. In your packet is a copy of the superintendent's, the revised annual goals, and I just wanted to bring your attention to some of the changes that had been recommended at the last school committee meeting. Under relationship with the school committee, it was advised that I include the creation or the revision of the new school committee member orientation program as one of the activities in which I will be engaged, so that you'll see that that's there on the first page. And under educational leadership, I believe, Michael, you had mentioned the use of data to improve student achievement. That was included as number 4, and number 5, analyzing data from multiple measures to identify improvement targets. That's what we'll be focusing on to improve student achievement. It was also recommended that I include a statement regarding the alignment to the Common Core standards. So that's number 9 under educational leadership. Mel, I believe you suggested that that be included because that's ongoing work. So that has been reflected under educational leadership. Under public relations, Michael wanted to make sure that I had an item regarding the secondary school building committee, and that is in there. It's number 3. Under personnel human resources, Michael also wanted to make sure that we had an item in here that reflected my work with the collective bargaining that will take place with the NREA, and that is in here. That's number 2 under human resources. And I believe those were all the suggested changes to the goals. So they've been made.
Great.
Again, included in your packet is a copy of a Boston Globe article entitled Schools Costs Top State Estimates. And just to encapsulate the nature of this particular article, the first statement: the state's funding formula for public schools underestimates the rising cost of special ed and teachers' health care by more than $2 billion a year, forcing some schools to cut costs on regular ed and creating inequalities in a system designed to make funding fairer across communities, according to a report that had been recently published by the Massachusetts Budget and Policy Center. And so if you went on to read this article, it reported highlights regarding the limitations of a funding formula that's based on an 18-year-old assumption, and that has no built-in triggers for reassessment of this particular funding formula. So it was an opportunity